Well, hi there, and welcome to The Joy of Art. I'm Jim Pence, and we're going to have some fun with chalk during the month of March. Everything outside is getting green, and we've got flowers coming out, and it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful spring. Well, we're going to take some time and learn how to draw some very simple things in chalk. One thing that a lot of people do when they're working with chalk or any kind of art is they try to put in too many details. They try to make everything look as if it were a photograph. Well, the problem with that is there's no way you're going to be able to perfectly render what you see out there. And a lot of times when you try to make things look too perfect, then they end up looking stilted and artificial, and if you've ever said, this just doesn't look right. And that's kind of what is happening. You're looking at it and you know it just doesn't look like it ought to, but you can't really figure out what you need to do. Well, what I'm going to demonstrate this month in each of our video demos is how I draw with chalk. And the principles are the same, so even if you're working with watercolor or oils or acrylics or pastels, the general principles will be similar. The actual execution may change depending on the medium that you're working with, but I like to work with chalk, and I've been doing that for about 35 years. And so I'm going to demonstrate for you this month some easy ways to create things like rocks and trees and evergreens and flowers, just some real simple things. When I do a chalk drawing, I create the illusion of a tree or a rock. I don't try to actually draw a tree. I create the kind of shape that somebody's going to look at and their eye is going to say, okay, yeah, that's a tree. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm starting here. I've got a nice piece of gray bogus paper. Again, I'm working on what's most comfortable for me, which is my chalk art easel in my studio. But you can do the same thing with drawing paper, pastel paper, with pastels. If you use chalk pastels. Oil pastels are a different thing altogether. They are cheaper, but can be pretty challenging to work with. So I'm thinking, again, if you're drawing and practicing some of these and you want to do it in chalk, get chalk pastels or buy the lecturer's chalk that I use. So I'm going to do the first thing that I always do, and that is I'm going to tone my paper. Whenever you're working with chalk particularly, you don't want to just work on a straight, colorless white surface. Now this surface is actually a little bit gray, but we want to go ahead and add a little color to it. So I'm just going to do it flat. I'm not going to do a sky right now. I'm just coming in with some dark blue. And I'm going to come in with a little lighter blue. And even a little bit lighter. And again, if I were doing this as a sky, I would do it differently. I just want to get some color on the paper. Then I'm going to use my handy dandy foam eraser. You can get these, or at least I used to be able to get these at Walmart. I haven't looked recently. But this surface here is almost like a very, very thin carpeting fiber. The rest is just foam, and I really like the foam because the foam helps me blend without taking the chalk off. And let me show you the alternative. I have often used, gotta find a clean one here. I've often used just regular erasers, and when you use a regular eraser, it tends to lift a lot of that chalk off. I don't know if you can see the difference. Here's another kind of eraser. This is the old felt eraser, and the blending is okay with those, but this foam lets me blend the chalk, and it really doesn't take much of the chalk off the paper, and I like that. It gives me a good surface to work on. Incidentally, another way to get foam like this is go to the makeup section of your local store, whether it be Walmart or whatever, and they sell packages of foam that you can use for this kind of blending, and they work great. Like one of these weeks I'll show you some of mine. Okay. Okay, I've toned my paper, so I have something to work on. And for starters, I just want to do some very simple trees. Now, when I work with chalk, I do a lot of things in blue, simply because it's easier, because you have a much more limited palette. We don't have a whole lot of different colors to work with. So often I'll do trees in blue, but I'm going to pull out one of my dark greens here. Okay, it's a nice stick of dark green. And again, if I was going to do a pine tree, and actually for starters, let me go back here and work with white a little bit, because white I think will be a little easier for you to see right now. You know, there's a lot of times when people try to draw a pine tree, they're going to go, okay, here's my pine tree. And because I know a pine tree is kind of triangled, and okay, so there we go. I got a nice snow-covered pine tree. Okay. The problem is, yeah, it looks okay, but it's not really a realistic looking pine tree. Or you go outside and you try, well, boy, there's so many different needles and things. When I do a pine tree, I'm just going to come up here, and again, I want to go with the general shape. I know a pine tree is going to sort of shape out into a triangular shape, roughly, but I'm not going to just draw triangles. Okay, I'm going to do a little bigger here. Just to give you the idea of what a pine tree looks like. Okay? And there's no magic formula for drawing that. It's just very simple. It just takes a lot of practice. And there are other ways to do different kinds of trees, and I'll show you some of those in succeeding weeks and months. But that's just a very simple pine tree. Now, for the highlighting, a lot of times I'm going to use a lighter yellow, and I'll come in and I'll hit just some of the edges of it, and it's just very simple. When you're doing a chalk drawing, particularly like a chalk drawing I'm doing in a church or something like that, I can't take all day to draw something. I've got to be able to get it out fairly quickly, and so it's helpful to just be able to throw in a few lines, a few smudges here and there, and come up with the suggestion of a pine tree. Okay, now I'm going to erase all that. All right. Now what about deciduous trees, leafy trees? Well, people might come in, okay, well, I know it's going to go like that, and I'm going to have a big trunk, and gee, I don't know how to shape it. Well, as a chalk artist, I actually draw things backwards. I'm going to come in, and I'm using white obviously right now, because it's showing up a little bit better on that dark background now that I have all the green there. And I'm just going to kind of create a tree shape. You notice I haven't put any branches in. I tend to do those second. And I'm just going to come in and begin to draw them toward the bottom, and then fill in my tree a little bit more. Okay, so for a deciduous tree with leaves, just think of almost kind of the same technique I would use to make a cloud. I'm just going to put those leaves in more of a circular pattern and draw my branches in, draw the trunk. That's kind of the other thing, you know, with a pine tree, you don't usually see much of the trunk because the tree, the way that the tree develops with all of those, you know, branches coming out, you know, the trunk is kind of hidden. With a deciduous tree, you want to see more of the trunk. Okay, oops, chalk broke. Just a little bit of ground in front of them. So there's a couple different kinds of trees to practice. We'll come back next week and do some more trees, and then also maybe show you how to do some rocks, maybe even little waterfalls. So we'll have some fun this month just playing with chalk. Again, you can do this with lecturer's chalk, and I'll include on this page a link where you can buy lecturer's chalk, or just get some pastels and have some fun. And we'll see you next week.